Coming to you live from sunny Arizona. The Steve Root Show is now live.
All right, people. I'm a little late here, but fortunately, being a man of means, I can account for any such emergency. Spit, showered, and shaved. This is Steve Root for another live stream, and as always, I want to use this platform to talk about things that are considered unusual for art. Not just art, but for people that live their life as artists, and the things we go through that are far better discussed than not discussed, not to be disgusted. So last night after work I was watching YouTube, which is what I normally do to enlighten myself after a long day of work. And I found myself getting very distressed about the state of the world. I mean, everything that seems to pop up on on my channels is negative. And the most negative stuff I see is the state of mankind, the state of people and the crazy things that they chose to spend their lives doing. And I just don't get it. Anyway, normally it kind of helps me understand people better, crazy people. But last night it just plain got to me. I think you all know about the Chris Watts story. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up, and you'll be like I am, someone who just cannot fathom the insanity of, or the possibilities of how people can think so drastically weird that you will, in your lifetime, you'll never understand it. This guy killed his wife and his and his two kids, 3 if you're counting the one in the belly of his wife. So what I do when I go through this kind of stuff is I tend to go to the typewriter and start typing out my thoughts. This is something I've been doing pretty often these days because I feel a strong need to write down the things in my head in ways that my handwriting couldn't be understood probably, and paste them in my sketchbook, because my sketchbook is a chronology not just of my advancement or not so as an artist, but the thoughts that I have as an artist and as a person as I go forward in life, and especially since I reached an age that sounds really weird to me, 68. It sounds completely wrong. I mean, everyone knows that 68 is supposed to be old, right? Supposed to be. But I think that's all nonsense. And I remember talking to people when I was in my mid-30s that were this age now. They always said the same thing. They never feel like they're the age that they're at. They feel kind of ageless. Like I feel like I'm about 42 maybe. And not much different than when I was at actual age, but things come up in life. Little periods of unexpected pauses that make you want to rethink life. And lately, before I get to your comments, which are very good this week, there's a lot of good things that I watch on YouTube. Mostly it's art videos. The latest thing for me has been watercolor. So I will engage the people with these different watercolor demonstrations and take pictures, as well as observing carefully about how they do things. Because I consider watercolor to be the final frontier of artists. It's a very tricky, funny thing that is way different than opaque painting, like acrylics, oil, or gouache. Gouache, what a name. So obviously, because I go back and forth on, I get it, I don't get it, I get it, I don't get it. It's always of interest to me to try to further the I get it part of it than the I don't get it part. In the meantime, I continue to do my comic book pages for Nexus Return to Earth, which you guys should really be proud of yourselves, because I wasn't expecting to go over 20,000 in a week. But in fact, that has proven to be a reality. And I've never quite seen the kind of rallying, if you want to call it that, that actually gives us enough money to not only not break even, but actually make a profit on this. Because this being my life, this work on Nexus, I don't personally see any kind of a profit off this. If there is one, it goes back into the next book. And those of you who publish things know what I'm talking about. And speaking of publishing, a book just came in the other day that I want to show you about, something that is specific to what I just mentioned. This is what you guys fostered here and helped pay for. This just came in. It's thankfully it's everything I hoped it to be. I don't see any weird typos or omissions of any kind of stuff we double checked and triple checked 3 or 4 times. So I'm pretty happy with it. And I think in knowing what went into this book and the things that I talk about are not going to be of just passing interest. They're going to be something that I think are going to be a permanent fixture on your bookshelves of art stuff. You know, if I had done anything less than what I did here, I would have felt, you know, pretty bad about it. But I'm reading this life story of Geddy Lee, the lead singer from Rush, the bass player. And he spends an entire chapter talking about his perfectionist ways and how it drives other people crazy. And he justifies it by saying, well, if you don't try for perfection, you're going to fall short and get something less than. And for me, in the way I do things, the way I think about things, to put out something, quiet Dick, to put out something that doesn't measure up to me is embarrassing and shameful. And I couldn't live with myself if I thought that what I was putting out and bore my name wasn't worthy of it being turned into an actual book. So I'm actually very proud of this, and you guys should be too, because it's all from the financial benefits that came pouring in that this book is even possible. The book that came before it is this book right here, and I'm equally proud of this book right here because it finally gave me a chance. The talking is going crazy here. It finally gave me a chance to put in print something that was extremely dear to me, and that is my perpetual pursuit of my Nexus animated cartoon show. And it's a very funny path that I'm on here, because after all this time, there's no cartoon show. Furthermore, I have not even come close to finding the right person, the person to partner up with, essentially a financial partner that can pony up a show that costs $1 million an episode, because that's what they go for nowadays. If you're going to pay people properly and do things right, $1 million. And that was 20 years ago. Hello, Tonkinese. This is Little Sal, or Little Dick as I call her. Yeah, you're completely good for nothing, aren't you? Yep, that's right, you are. Little Dick wants to be a slob. She developed this habit very early on when she was a kitten dick, and she likes to slobber by licking her foot. And I'm the only one she feels comfortable doing it around, so lucky me. Where in the heck was I here? Yeah, the show. All this time goes by, and I continue to work on it, and I'm having the best time. I just love the invigoration that comes from learning something I never thought that I'd be learning, which is actually animating. I never thought I'd come to a point in my life where I would have a need to do that, but after doing all these layouts are the precursor to actual animating the figures. I'm having an incredible time. I just love doing it, and the irony is I keep stacking up more and more examples of animating these layouts, and the only people that get to see it are you guys out there. So life is a very queer thing. It's a very queer passage in path that and there she goes. See, you guys can't see it, but it's probably better that you don't. Self-soothing, I think they call it. I think everyone needs a way to do that in the world that nobody normal can understand, or sane rather. Something I want to show you here that relates to what I was talking about the different humps and bumps that you go through as an artist. And essentially, I kind of see it like this: when you start off, you're in a whole different state of mind, in a youthful state than is normally relegated to a person of age, person aging like a normal person. You go from your 20s, I think your 30s come after that, and then 40s, as I recall. 40s were great. Then 50s, when I hit my 50s, I had to go through this period of where do I go from here? What do I want to do? And I made a false turn into the fine art world, which I came to really hate. Once I found out, you know, the way the people in the fine art worlds are, I didn't care for it much. So I got out and went back. And I remember the day I went back to what I should be doing, which is comics and illustration, and I thought, I am so glad to come full circle back to where I belong. And it's been that way ever since. And now in my late 60s, gack, I'm going through a different phase right now, and one of them is I'm having a hard time focusing on oil painting. The last couple paintings I did in oil are not something that sent me skyward in praise of my abilities. They turned out okay, but the yearning to make them like the way I used to make them, which is putting everything into it and having immense enthusiasm for it, is becoming elusive these days, and I don't know how to get it back. So one of the things I wanted to show and tell here is that pertains directly to this phenomenon is this cover right here. This cover was a huge move forward for me when I worked for First Comics, and the reason is because prior to this cover, I had been asked to work in a fast-drying medium and work very small. The dumbasses, I mean the people that worked there had me working, let's see, this size. This is the standard size that they wanted the covers done in, which is no bigger than a page of comic book art, approximately 11 by 16. with a 1-inch border to be cropped. What ended up happening is I went to this NC Wyeth show, Newell Cornwell, or Corners, or whatever the hell, a Wyeth, from the 1920s and 30s. And these paintings were freaking huge. They were like this big, or bigger. And I thought, what the hell am I wasting my time listening to the people at first, just for the convenience of giving them covers the way it's convenient for them and not me. I want to expand, and I'm fed up with listening to these these parameters that they insist I work within. So this cover came aboard right here, and it just so happens that I have the original sitting here, which I'm going to show you about now. This is the original painting of that comic book cover. Now, as you can see, it is not 11 by 15. It is big. It is at least 2 feet by 3 feet, I think, and finally busting through the barriers that first put me under in working in oil paint. Like, I was so desperate to start using again. I had the time of my life doing this thing. I was so proud of it. And honestly, there would be almost nothing that I can improve upon if I were to do this today. There's little things, but overall, no. It's I was touched by the source when I did this right here, and to this day I look at it with fondness. So I'll set this aside for now, and there, set aside. And I think at this point I'm going to go into reading some announcements here. And here they are. September 13th, community announcements. You and I are the community. Nexus Return to Earth. We have 17 days left. We have raised over $21,000 in pledges for a studio preview. Oh, it's this preview edition, that's right. Not the how to draw book. Preview edition of Nexus Return to Earth. But this book takes you on a tour through the Nexus story page by page, showing everything but the finished pages. Cool, huh? Rough pencils, dialogue changes, letters, rough, my hand lettering, that's what they're referring to, rough inks, and even my direct commentary on the pages. So what its purpose to me is to show you things that, again, like this live stream, and while talking about things others don't, this is a book that shows you things others don't. Lucky you, we have a trivia question today. Who colored Nexus Capital Comic #1? Gary Martin, Paul Glacy, who did the cover, or me, the dude, Mr. Humility. Is it up by any chance to show people? Do we have that? Well, that's a vast oversight right here. Let me just grab it since we don't have it for you guys to look at. Stay busy. I'll be right back. Lucky you, I always have everything at immediate fingertip access. This is my copy of Nexus #1. It's been read a few times. And given that this was published back in 1981, oh, those were good days. So youthful, so inspired, and so desperate to prove myself. This is the cover we're talking about, the first cover of the release of Nexus. One thing I want to point out is the wimps at Capitol that originally had an exciting new superhero magazine. But the damn people at Marvel claimed they had ownership over the name superhero. So these wimps at Capitol decided to change it. Like the wimps they continued to be for the entire time we were publishing, and prematurely got out of the business because they didn't have the guts to continue or the belief in what we were doing. to keep the book going. So first nabbed it. So the person, look carefully at this cover right here, and you tell me who colored it. Paul Glacy drew it and inked it, and someone else colored it. So your guess would be door number 1, 2, or 3. Well, if you pick door number 4, that would be me. I'm the one that colored this cover right here. And I colored it on this weird, very slippery kind of paper, almost like the paper they used to print this book in. And I remember having to airbrush these backgrounds here, something I am loath to ever do again. Because I just don't like the idea of cutting out Friscuits. Never mind, no way. Anyway, so this is the back cover. This is also airbrushed in the background when I could still stand to cut out Friscuits. And I colored it on the same kind of slick paper that I did on the cover here, the actual cover. You can see my drawing style was still trying to find itself, but my memories of back then were so raw and exciting that that comes with anyone who's getting their first series to draw, and one that would go on to change a lot of people's perceptions of what independent comics could be. Let's read some. We got some new members here. Welcome, Patreon members. We actually got some new paid members. This is the $5 category. Gregory Hall and Stefan Hammeroth. Are there any George Martins out there, or Dick and Janes? I don't think so. Nobody has a normal name anymore. Free members: Sherwin Varay, Hepcat, Charlie, Vas Cam, Michael Earls, and Ant Mob 100. I know that means a lot to you, as it does to me, but we're keeping. Remember, these guys all have all access to the getting first dibs on that behind the scenes book that we call the Studio Preview Edition of Nexus Return to Earth. So we're still keeping the full Nexus Pages scripts and letterings over on our Patreon. This is how we keep creating and sharing the complete process with you, as well as making a small resemblance of a living wage. How to draw books. This is the How to Draw book. Check out this book at steveroot.com/howtodraw and pre-order your copy today. Another thing I tend to bring up when I'm doing these live streams is the weird phenomenon of people that just start their podcast or whatever they're called and immediately ask you to thumb it up and subscribe. I find this kind of ass backwards, as in, why don't you wait till you're done before people want to decide if they're going to subscribe or thumb up? But no, this is all backwards here. These guys are so insistent that you do it right away and plug in the little hands up signs that it just strikes me as being weird. In this podcast, you are fully free to do both such things, subscribe or thumb it up at the end of this thing when you decide if it's good enough to have that done with it.
We got a comment in from Jim Gillespie commenting about the trademark superhero that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
He said, DC and Marvel recently lost the trademark on the term superhero. They never should have had that trademark in the first place. No,
they shouldn't have, and I really appreciate that guy writing in here. Look, when you go through your life, you can either do it with your your standards upheld and your gut intact of what's right and wrong, or you can cave in. And I have a real problem with the people that I look back in hindsight that caved in. It's not a befitting way to remember your life, and if you don't go by your gut and by what you know is wrong and right, then You're living less of a life than the one that I wish you would leave. These are comments from last week's live stream right here, which are always inspiring to read. I'm not going to read their names, their handles, or whatever they call it, because they're unpronounceable and just too weird. So this guy writes in, your enthusiasm, energy, and dedication are awe-inspiring. Presumably he's talking about Moa. Alas, I'm the very opposite of you, always wasting my time and talent. And I'm not 39 anymore. Well, isn't that interesting? Again, a person of great honesty that was not fearful to write in and express exactly what he thinks about his place in life right now. Very proud of guys like that. Some guy writes in, just watched your documentary from 10 years ago. It was so open and vulnerable and showed you more as a person who just happens to have an icon status. Oh, fine, you want to call me an icon, whatever. But as far as the way I come across on camera or these documentaries, I can't really account for why I act the way I do, except if I'm not in touch with what I really am on the inside, then I don't feel genuine, and I feel like it's not even worth coming on here unless we talk about things that are often below the surface of what everyone else talks about. I had a friend in a band, and before he would, as he was going into his song set, he would always say, "How's everybody doing out there?" And they would all scream and shout and clap. And I thought, what a bunch of wimps. Why don't you talk to them about something important, like world peace and starving kids? And my friend said, well, I tried doing that, but they don't care. Yeah, okay. Tony Figueroa, one of my students, wrote in, who's always making very helpful and heartfelt comments about the work being done here in the Root Studios, writes, these new pages, the Nexus pages that I keep showing you guys, from Return to Earth, evoke Alex Raymond's graceful figure work and compositions in a way that only Steve could accomplish. It would be great to hear you discuss Alex Raymond in depth, and considering how influential Raymond has been. I got to know a lot about Alex Raymond very early on. A lot of it came from having met Stan Drake, this wonderful guy, probably in his 60s at the time. And this is back in the mid-80s, where I went to Westport, Connecticut to see all the things that went on there that were so important to my life as an illustrator, because all the illustrators tended to congregate in that very town, Westport, Connecticut. And so listening to Stan Drake, someone who isn't brought up too often, but I can tell you that I thought of him the same way I think of Neil Adams. Just a wonderful man who was so honest about imparting everything that he learned over the past 50 years, and happily did so to guys like myself, who were still in our 20s. Alex Raymond, as I recall, had two great qualities in as much as he informed my work. He knew the comic strip medium was as formidable as any celebrated painter of fruit. And he loved telling stories through his characters, which I think is the number one draw of all people that congregate to the comic book storytelling field. We have the ability to do something that literally no one else in no other field can do. Tell sequential stories with the lives of our characters. And that's another reason I encourage you all these days, if you're not satisfied with the way Marvel and DC are doing things, can't imagine why, to self-publish and do your own thing and make your own mark. I think the time for that emergence is now. This guy writes in about the Nexus pilot video, which is always fun for me to read about, given I haven't got a show yet. This guy writes in, Why couldn't we have a faithful animated adaptation of Nexus in the 80s instead of frickin' Muppet Babies or He-Man? And people wonder how anime got so big in the West. Well, I could talk for more than 30 seconds on this subject right here. The fact that this show that I continue to work on with a literal mountain, is this camera big enough to catch this right here? We're gonna have to move way back, and we're looking at a stack of paper about like that, literally, and that's all pre-production work on a show that has never made it on the air, and gets bigger all the time because I keep working on it. I recall my friend Dave Stevens. He wrote this wonderful book called Brush with Passion, just before he died from cancer, a rare form of cancer. And he was writing about his times during his Hanna-Barbera days, where he was recruited by Johnny Quest creator Doug Wildey to work on Godzilla. Godzilla was a piece of garbage that got out of everyone's hands that wanted to turn it into something good, which is hardly an uncommon phenomenon in the animation business, especially during the late 70s, mid 70s and 80s. This is when the parental groups knew better than everyone else and decided that if we remove all sense of violence or controversy in the cartoons, our kids would turn out to be halo-wearing Pollyannas. I don't think that worked out very well. This guy writes in and comments on one of the pages I was showing last week. He goes, Steve, what made you decide to raise the top border of the last panel? I don't know. It just seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Spark, another dear friend that goes back a ways. Spark is an artist that every time I've met him, I get a sense of absolute sincerity from this guy. He has no time to waste on frivolities, and he is one of these remarkable people that continues to strive to get better and keep at his artwork, even though he's sustained some pretty hopeless luck as far as getting published in the big leagues go. So, but he keeps on trying, and that in itself is a remarkable feat. Very praiseworthy. And Spark writes in and says, I also like a big brush, Steve, because I keep talking about sissy brushes like these 000s that people use and think they're the best thing you can use because everyone tells you to use them. Spark uses the number 7 brush. And the number 7 brush, if I may grab this brush right here, is probably no less than something as big as this right here. This is number 8, but what's in a number, right? He goes, I do most everything with the number 7 brush, and plus it holds a lot of ink. So more drawing and less dipping. See, I told you the guy's smart. I think I've even used a bigger ones dependent on the drawing, which makes sense. With a good brush, you've got touch control, and you should be able to still get the finest lines you need. This is the brush I'm most commonly inking with at the moment here. This is a King Art Premium Gold Maximum Round brush. This is a number 10. Can you believe that? But as long as it comes to a point, we're going to be fine and dandy. Question from Jesus something or other. Question, Steve. How many hours a day do you study, practice drawing, and painting before you do your own personal work? I would like to know how you set up your week. Thank you for all the knowledge you share. You're welcome. How many hours a day do I study, practice drawing, and painting before doing my own personal work? Well, obviously, the answer always revolves around circumstances during the day. Like, for example, if you can see this over here, you can see some of the stuff I've been practicing before I normally go to work. I think you can see that on the drawing board here. It's some studies of musculature from a 50s icon named Steve Reeves, who played Hercules in a lot of movies. And I just think this guy is the coolest guy. He's the handsomest guy. He's I don't know if steroids came into it. It's almost impossible to imagine that it didn't, but it was a different time back then. And doing these kind of drawings are artistically invigorating for me. I really like doing them, and it's just plain fun. So, and also the fact that I actually thrive in doing these things. If I was like a lot of guys that I've known as artists that only work when they see that blank piece of paper in front of them, thinking about the check they're going to get, I don't relate to that. And that doesn't make me better or worse than anyone else. I just don't think of what I do as the kind of stuff my dad's generation did, which is you get a job, and like it or not, you keep it and you provide for your family. I don't think I've ever once thought about providing for my family. It just gets provided for because I like working hard. I would like to know how you set up your work week. It's at this time in my life, it's pretty instinctive. I just get up, and drawing comic book pages is so fun because it's not like a painting where you spend 2 weeks on it and just have to go into all these damn details and touching up little things to get them edges right and all this details and all this stuff. They go by much quicker than that, and because they do that, you have a better chance to absorb the overall traction of the story, the things that are always moving it forward, and the things you look forward to drawing after the last page was done. So comic books are just the end all of coolness, as I think most of you know. So my work week is always about on-off sketching, drawing. If I feel like I need to warm up, I'll do that. I tend to do any painting studies, especially in watercolor or oil over at my oil painting station after work, if I'm going to do them. And that's only if I can get the rubbish from watching the horrible people on YouTube out of my mind in time. Next question. This is about the animated Nexus show again. When you work on the animated series, are you using a particular software in uploading everything for further editing? Or do you have a stockpile of actual celluloid cells there? If not, I was curious to know if you've ever tried working with cells in the past. Thanks. Well, in fact, if you've ever seen the original Nexus pilot that was abandoned due to running out of money fast and making me feel like I've been through a world war, you would have seen everything that was shot in cells, because that's how we think you needed to do it. And computers were anything but reliable in the way that they are now today. Now, the second pilot that you know is the Nexus animated pilot on YouTube. That was all done digitally. And as far as a particular software or uploading everything for further editing, I still don't know anything about that stuff. I just figured, rightfully, when I get a show, there'll be other people, as in a couple of billion people, that know more than me to take care of those kind of things. I'm not going to work with software and a Cintiq and all this crap. I'm just going to stick to my actual the disc lit from below and use pencils and paper. That's what I like doing, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. And for everyone else who wants to go to the other side, the dark side, they're going to do that because it's just the way people act when they're called upon to make changes in the way things are done today, which are going to change by tomorrow, no doubt. So one guy writes in and just says, as the last comment, I shifted to synthetic brushes a long time ago and have seen my work improve significantly. Well, there you go. The reason is the synthetic brushes have now outdistance the former actual hairs of sables, red sables as they are most normally called, is because the sables are getting tired of having their tails plucked, and the synthetics have gotten to a point where they have everything that the sables used to have, which is a great deal of snap. Let's grab one here and look at all the snap involved in a brush. Snap, snap, snap. And they come to the same kind of wonderful point that the actual hairs from the sable used to do. So, and they last just as long. So I love these things. Now, on the other hand, there's brushes like this with very little snap, especially when they're wet. These are Chinese brushes right here, made in China, presumably. And I have plenty of these right here. I have an entire water glass of these things that I've experimented with a particular guy that I'm in touch with. Geez, I think moths are getting to some of these right here. Shame on them for doing what comes natural to them. But working with these things, it's kind of, especially when they're wet, it's a whole different world than working with the brushes I use for inking my comic book work. I remember the first time somebody gave me one of these, I thought, well, it doesn't have any snap to it. What's the point? So I just threw it away. I wish I had had that brush now, because I would no doubt be using it. And it wasn't until I saw people on YouTube using these things that I finally got the versatility that these brushes are capable of. I'm going to show you a couple pages right here that I've been working on.
And we are 40 minutes in.
40 minutes in. Okay, well, Mr. Producer just informed me that we'll be coming to a close soon enough, because I don't like to go more than 40 minutes. And even though I think I'm only on for 10 minutes, it turns out to be much longer than that, because we're having fun, right? This is a page that, page 30, so that shows you how far that I'm up to. A lot of cool human drama engagement going on here. Some of you will recognize Nexus's girlfriend, Cinder Peel, giving somebody the boot, in this case, the heel, which probably hurts much more. Here we have Barney Fife making an appearance as a motorcycle cop, and a couple other regulars that have appeared in Nexus in the past. The very latest page that I've done is in progress right here, as you can see. And I have to tell you in closing here about some incredible ironies that take place in the way that I've been kind of asked to work nowadays, which is page by page. But this is only after writing the entire story and doing thumbnails for the entire 100-page saga. Well, there's changes going on right here, and I don't quite know how to explain them, except they're happening, and I don't quite know what to make of them, except it's causing very strange and very innovative things to take place that I would have never thought of, even in my thumbnails when I pre-think everything. This guy right here has been shown sitting in a chair with two legs. And for those of you Patreons who have seen the page that I drew up in pencil, rough pencil before this, he was not floating out there on a chair that he's been sitting on with his two legs. He's now floating in the chair through the doorway. And I had this absolutely bizarre thought that had his three flunkies over here saying, "I hate it when he does that." Now, if you look over here, he's left his legs behind. Now, where did that come from? I don't know, but when I thought of it, I kept it, because it is absolutely bizarre and something that I don't quite know where it came from. That's our live stream for today. Thanks so much for contributing to this book right here and continuing your awesome contributions to the Nexus Behind the Scenes book, the studio preview book. So with that, I will take my leave, put more stuff on my injured leg right here, specifically my Achilles tendon, which you cannot walk right without a properly healed Achilles tendon. So I'll leave you with this to look at a little while longer. And remember the good time I had working on that. You guys take care. I'll see you next time.